Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. Welcome back to another episode of Crushing with Abby O. Today's special guest and pelvic floor specialist, Nicole Thorne, is joining me for a conversation that you generally only have amongst your friends. Incontinence isn't only an issue for women who have had children. It happens to a lot of us. It's definitely happened to me. Nicole shares her story of accidental leaking after having children and how she came to be a pelvic floor specialist, transforming the lives of at least 1,000 women. We chat about my own personal experience with accidentally peeing my pants, why that happens, and how we can work to resolve the issue. We are not stuck with this. Nicole can teach you to get to the root of the issue so you can live leak-free. Nicole Thorne is a strength training coach specializing in helping women eliminate leaking and pain by restoring their functional core system. She is a certified fitness professional and master trainer for core competence education, which is the leading certification for pre- and postnatal rehabilitation. With over 30 years of experience training women, she is also the owner of Nicole Thorne Fitness and the founder of Pelvic Floor Secrets. She believes in retraining and resetting the body first and foremost, so safe movement becomes natural and automatic before embarking on strength training programs that meet women where they are in their own health and fitness journeys. Women who have trained with Nicole rave about her programs, her motivating personality, and above all, the results that they achieve. She inspires women to reach their goals and to stop their declining health through education and empowerment by ensuring each woman that she trains gets the results they crave without compromising their body. Listen, y'all, I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Please share it with your lady friends and welcome Nicole Thorne to the podcast. Welcome, Nicole, to the Crushing with Abby O podcast. It is so good to have you here. I am so excited to talk to you.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dive right in because I know that this is a topic that a lot of women struggle with, sometimes secretly. And I would love to know your personal story. Like, how did you get into just having all the secrets about the pelvic floor?
Yes, I get asked this question a lot. So basically, Abby, I've been in the fitness industry for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I started as this young, 19-year-old. And then obviously then I didn't have this issue. So back then I used to work out, like my philosophy was always that good old 1990s, the harder, the better, the more, the better philosophy. And that was me, but I was 19 too. So it was fine, But anyways, had my babies at 34 and 36. And because of my philosophy with the harder, the better, which was still very alive at that time, that's what I did after my pregnancies. But my thing was, and a lot of women have this, I believe, it's also that idea that was super, super strong. And I think it still lives today. Like, we can just bounce back. And I was a fitness professional, so I believed wholeheartedly, like if anyone can just bounce back, it would have to be me. Right. So it never entered my universe that maybe I'd have to prep, maybe I'd have to heal. I was like, no, of course not, not me.
Yeah.
Healing, what's that? Anyway, that was a surprise for me. And you know what? And I even took certifications like postnatal certifications, and pelvic floor was never mentioned. And like, I had no clue, Abby. And most of us don't. But anyways, because of that, had the babies, because we work in this industry, it was important for me to look a certain way. So I went back hard, dieting and exercise. It's all I knew at the time. And, things didn't end well. Well, they ended well now.
Yeah.
but back then. So I had uncontrollable incontinence, like uncontrollable. So remember, I'm a health professional already for 15 years at that time. Young, fairly young, right? I'm 35 years old. I almost had to quit fitness because pee stinks. So it's not amazing at the
Yeah.
gym or anywhere.
Yeah.
It was bad. But luckily, things happen serendipitously, and I came in contact with the right people, and then things grew from there to where it is today. Like I fixed myself, and now like I fixed thousands of women over the last 10-ish years that I've
Ugh,
been actually focusing on pelvic floor.
so amazing. I love it. I love it. So basically, how did you start to learn how to fix yourself? Did you just start doing research and asking lots of questions?
Yeah. So, like I told you, like I wanted to switch. You know how you kind of stay with like your life phase? It's very common, right? So when I had the babies, I wanted to start like helping women with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I started calling myself a postnatal fitness coach, when in reality, I was just a coach who had babies.
Yeah.
But anyways, I started calling myself this, and because of that, and I lived in Toronto, which is a major metropolitan city here in Ontario where I live. I just came in, like it allowed me to meet the people who would lead me to the information. So I
Awesome.
got to be part of this very first certification, which now I'm a master trainer for too. It's for training
Oh,
coaches,
awesome.
and it was developed by two friends of mine, but also a pelvic floor physio. So really even though like I'm a strength training coach, not a physio, but the information, this rehab information, comes straight from one of the top physios in Toronto.
Amazing. That's so cool. What a cool thing to be a
Mm-hmm.
part of too. And then you get to pass on all the amazing information.
Yeah. Honestly, Abby, like things really fell in place, which I'm extremely grateful for. Not only
Yeah.
personally, right? Because I didn't mention
Hmm.
in my story, but I had uncontrollable incontinence. Like I don't anymore. And now I'm about to turn 50
Hmm.
next year. So it's a
Hmm.
big difference, like age.
Yeah.
And I don't have the issues anymore. And also with the women, right? Like it just works to put these foundational elements in. Every single person gets results with it,
Yes, that's
which
amazing.
is it's just, you know what it is? It's a missing link in the fitness industry because it's not rocket science. It's actually information that every single woman should know, whether you've had babies or not, because it
Yeah.
helps, right? Like we should
Yeah.
be talking about it. Like I teach it to my daughters who are teenagers.
Because it's still muscles and it's still your body and physiology. So why shouldn't we dig a little deeper and know about that too?
Well, this is the
Mhm.
thing, right? So, like, there's a thing called prolapse. So that means
Mhm.
that the pelvic floor is like so weak, or there is an issue where the organs start descending down, and there's
Mhm.
different grades of it. Well, and for leaking as well, there is surgery being recommended for this. Well, here's what people don't realize. Surgery honestly should be your last resort. Like I'm not saying don't ever do it. There might be a situation where it's the right thing for you. But
Mhm.
even if you're going to get surgery, it's not a free ride.
Mhm.
Like, right? Because you still haven't strengthened. So you can have surgery done, so mesh inserted, whatever they're doing,
Mhm.
but it's still weak at the end of the day. So even if you're going to do surgery, you still have to know this stuff. You still
Mhm.
have to strengthen. And really, strengthening is not the right word. I use that word, lack of a better word, but really what the word is making it functional, because that's
Mhm.
what's happening. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's kind of dormant because of people's alignment, and then the whole body doesn't function the way it was meant to be. So we have these issues that we're all normalizing, which really shouldn't be like that. The body wasn't meant to be, you have a baby and now forever you pee your pants.
Yeah, which I
Right?
think women almost feel like it's the norm and they just live with it for years and years and years.
Well,
Mhm.
doctors have been known, that I've been told, tell women it's normal. And I'm
Yeah,
not saying every doctor, but I have
right.
been told many times, like they were told by their doctor, yes, you've had babies and this is just part of life now.
Well, I know from listening to a different podcast episode with Mike Milner that men do suffer from this too, but if they did at the rate and amount that women did, maybe they would be more inclined to not say that.
Well, yeah, this is the
No
thing. This
offense,
is the
like
thing.
no offense to them, but like there is such thing as like digging a little deeper into a root cause. Like
Yeah.
maybe there's a
Yeah.
different way.
On that note, right? Like, what is it? The Viagra. for men. So they have that issue. Well, you can see how much attention commercials and like everybody knows about this issue for men, and they're trying to desperately fix it, right? And like for women, it's like, no, we don't talk
Nope,
about
you
it.
just get to wear like adult diapers. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. At 35 years old, right?
Yeah,
Like,
which
okay.
totally. So I'm 38, and this totally is such a great segue to the story that I was telling you. I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
So I've been an esthetician for 13 years and worked with women like privately, one-on-one setting, and been a personal trainer for a few years. And I do get women tell me once in a while, it just comes up in conversation like, well, I can't even jump without peeing my pants or whatever, can't work out. Or I've known other women in the fitness space or that work out, and they say that, just certain lifts make them pee their pants a little bit. And I actually I've never peed myself lifting. So I've always been kind of like, really? Why would that happen? But I say a lot that the moment I turned 30, it's like my bladder just sometimes is very urgent. And sometimes I feel like I can't hold it all the way, and sometimes I don't. And a
Right.
couple of weeks ago, this is so silly. A couple of weeks ago, I was leaving work and I sat down in my car and realized, oh, yeah, I have to go by Target for a pickup order. I'm just going to drive up, sit there, and they bring my stuff out to me. But
Yeah.
sometimes around 5, like in the evening, it can be a little busy, and I sit there for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. It's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
I realized, okay, well, maybe I should go back in and go pee before I head to Target. I didn't really have to go. But the moment I thought about it, before I even got up, I was peeing, and I was like, what the hell? This is a betrayal of my
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a little dress, just a little tank dress, and like a shirt tied around. And somehow it hit the shirt, but not my dress. And I'm like walking across the parking lot, and pee is just like dripping down my legs. I'm like, what the hell? There's nobody there because it's after hour, like after 5. Walk back in, dry myself off, and I'm like, what the shit? Like that was so abrupt. Like it wasn't even as I was getting up. It was just like, ooh, you thought about it? I'm gonna release myself right now. There you go. Have fun, bitch. And like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, I take my underwear off, and I'm like wrapping things in paper towels. Like, this is so silly. Go back out to my car, go to Target, and so at Target, they'll wheel your stuff up on a like little 2-tiered cart, and sometimes they'll have other people's orders on there too. And
Okay.
she's putting the groceries in my back driver's side seat, and I'm just kind of chilling right there at the window, sort of looking back at the little cart with all the other groceries on it. And I see on the bottom rack, there's a box of like training diapers, training
Oh, no.
pants.
Oh my
And I thought
gosh.
to myself, I was like, I could use those too. And I almost said it out loud, except for that girl doesn't know me, doesn't know my
Yeah.
situation, doesn't know what just happened, and doesn't know how funny it is. But I was sitting there
Yeah.
thinking like, I could probably use those little training pants too, since I just peed myself before I came here. And I start laughing, and I have a community of women that I talk to through a different app, and I like walkie-talkie them the story. I'm like, hey guys, I thought you could appreciate this. And then I get a couple of stories back, where it's like, oh, I was locked out of the house or like whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, universal problems. Like we've all peed our pants at some points, apparently,
Yeah.
for no good reason. And so not having children, but having this issue once in a while, it makes me realize like I can use this information, and I can make sure that my body is reinforced or functioning properly, because when I didn't really have to go, like when I hadn't been holding it for hours and hours, shouldn't I have been able to get out of my car without peeing myself?
Yeah. Well, let me give you a little high level explanation of what happened there. First of all, it
Okay.
is an actual thing. We call it urgent incontinence. Like you called it that by accident. That is what we call it.
Yes.
And some women have it where, when they're getting home, they have to pee. They have to pee. Yes, they're putting the key in the keyhole thing, and then all of a sudden they can't hold it
Yeah,
anymore, right?
that happens
Or
to me
like
all
you're
the
opening.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is an actual thing. Actually, two things that we'll talk about. Number one, what can help you at that moment. We are like completely anxiety, stress, and right, like stress goes through the roof. But actually try this. I'm telling you and everybody else listening, try to actually relax yourself. So literally take a breath, stretch your calf. I know it sounds silly, but something easy that you can do to just take it down a notch, and you will be able to make the toilet, because it's anxiety and craziness that actually exasperates the whole situation. So that's a solution that every woman can use right away. Like the opposite needs to happen. Like do your best to relax, and everybody here will have a win with that when they try it.
I try to do that, especially like if I'm driving and I realize I have to go, I'm like, you can make it, you got this. Like I really do try to do that, but I also run up 4 flights of stairs. So sometimes that bouncing on the way up, I'm like, oh. So there's that too. And it could just be like I waited a little too long, but that's such good, like it's like a distraction from what's going on. I love that.
Correct. As opposed to like, that feeling, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm panicking.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But let me explain something. Okay. So basically one of the giantest, is that a word?
Yeah, it is now.
Missing link in the fitness industry is how people look at the core. So when I talk core, I always mean deep core. I don't mean your 6-pack muscles that we can see. I mean deep core. So for deep core, and honestly, the names are not important, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Front is the transverse, back is the multifidus. So these 2 parts, the pelvic floor is attached to it. So it's not separate the way we treat it, because we treat it separate in the fitness world and in the rehab world, because you're either being advised to do Kegels, which is just hold, never releasing, or we're being advised in fitness to do belly button to the spine. So it's taking this core that's supposed to be best friends and separating it. So we got front, back, bottom, literally attached, and then you have the top. The top doesn't really cause us much issues because of gravity, the top just comes along. But the pelvic floor causes us issues because gravity causes havoc there. But okay, so the fact that we're not looking at this as a group is problem number 1. But so I start with always reteaching people how the body was meant to breathe, and the breath takes the pelvic floor with. So the whole thing is like a cylinder. The whole core 4, we call it, it's like a cylinder. So it goes up together, down together, up together, down together, etc. What happens though, most of us, and I work with even elite athletes, and they have the same issues as like your, stay-at-home mom or whatever. We have these like very often forward rolling shoulders, right? As you
straightened up.
We have these forward rolling shoulders. There's other things happening with alignment too that are very often exacerbated with pregnancy. But because of this, so try it yourself. If you roll your shoulders forward, right, and kind of sit here, and then you try to take a breath, what happens is the breath, no matter what you do, stays up in here at the up. Right. Like it can't go down. So get this, what's supposed to happen, you're supposed to take a breath. We call it 360 breathing. The entire cylinder, front, back, sides, is supposed to fill with air. Guess what? When you do that, the breath also goes to the pelvic floor that gets the message, and then it automatically bounces up. And when it bounces up, the transverse and the back automatically comes together side to side, not backwards like belly button to the spine. So the whole thing kind of contracts together softly, but naturally and together. But this isn't what we are doing. So essentially what's happening is, instead of the pelvic floor working softly all day, every day, no matter what you're doing, lifting your children or walking or whatever, it's not working because it never gets that message. So in a way, that's where the dysfunction or the non-functionality is starting from, right? And that's why you don't necessarily have to have had a baby to have the issues, but having a baby plus this, and now we're just, it starts to, the problem just kind of snowballs a little bit. So that's actually what it is. It's like the body is not allowed to just allowed, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's not being put in an environment where it automatically just works for you. So you could kind of say then those pelvic floors are just dormant. And then now you didn't mention this in your story, but let's say the person all of a sudden has to move very, very quickly to grab their child that's falling or something like this, right? Or for whatever reason. And now you're asking your pelvic floor to work, but it's like, no, it's dead. It's been sitting here not having to work, right? Again, it's
Yeah.
supposed to work all day long. But for somebody like you, yeah, like if it hasn't been working, then it doesn't have that strength to hold that full bladder for
Yeah.
a prolonged period of, like, that's what's happening.
So this really, honestly, as I think about that, and I joke about having turned 30, but I would say that that's about the time that I became so busy as a lash artist, and I was sitting over clients all day, and we look like like a croissant or like shrimp by the time, because we're like really hunched
Yeah.
over people. So that could be part of that, is just that there's a very shallow breathing, which I have in the last year just really tried to learn more about, that full, like the full belly to chest breathing, not just belly breathing, not just like the whole thing. And even when
Yeah.
I'm walking, I'll just try to consciously practice that, because I know sitting, we tend to shallow breathe, and then even wearing masks at work, and that's even more shallow. And so
Yes.
really taking the time to, which we don't hear now, but like for people who are wearing masks a lot, like having that break to just be able to like breathe, I mean, fully. And so
Yeah.
you're right. And I think, and also women, we tend to, I don't know, like society, cultural, just our own things, like we tend to want to suck in and chest
Yes.
breathe. I mean, like, the ladies back in the day with the corsets, and they're always heaving from the chest. And we still kind of do that, so that we
Yeah.
can hold our belly in. And that's actually really tiring and not great for you. But
No.
I was reading something about, maybe it was like in relation to Kegels, and like kind of holding your, like when you're squeezing closed all day, and how that could maybe make it weak because it's like constant tension.
Exactly.
Is okay, so that's a thing.
Yeah. Think of
Because I
it
try to
like,
consciously
exactly.
relax down there too. I'll be like, okay, just why are you squeezing everything shut?
Yeah. Well, think of it like from a different muscle. So, for example, biceps. I always use
Mm-hmm.
biceps, but it can be any muscle. You would never work your biceps by only contracting it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way we work biceps, but any muscle, is like, yes, we contract like with weight, but then we extend fully. Right. I know
Mm-hmm.
there's something like isometric training, but I'm talking, that's its
Right.
own thing.
Yeah, you
That
don't want to be holding a contraction.
you
Because
would
you get
never.
weak. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll fail.
exactly.
It'll fail.
If I work my bicep and all I'm ever doing with weight, I'm like boom, 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 contract, contract, contract. Yeah, it never. This will not, and it'll get weak. Exactly like what you said, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what's happening with the pelvic floor, because we were being advised. I think we're getting out of this now to do Kegels, because people think it's weak and they have to strengthen it. So they get this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Let me squeeze it, squeeze and
Mm-hmm.
hold, squeeze and hold, squeeze and hold, and yeah, if you're already tight, right? Like if it's already tight and tense and all those things, now you're squeezing it only. I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah, and which, think of like if people are under more stress, they tend to be holding more tension in general if they're feeling
Yep.
anxious or if they're under more stress. And that, if you sit there and just connect with your body, you'll be like, oh, everything's tense. And so even
Exactly.
as I like lay in bed at night, okay, I do a sleep meditation, and he goes through like from the top of the head to the feet, right? And I'll just be like, even in my areas, I'll be like, relax, stop squeezing. Like you don't have to go to,
Yeah.
you're not holding stop holding all of that tension everywhere.
A fun thing for people to try at home is if they just try seated, or seated is probably easiest to do, belly button to the spine. Like as soon as you do that movement, you feel a pressure in your pelvic floor. And so that just kind of gives you a hint as to what we're talking about, you know?
Interesting.
It's a
Yeah.
good kind of self-test, because
Mm-hmm.
this is new, right? Like it's new.
Mm-hmm.
People, we haven't spoken about it. It should be mainstream, but it'll probably take another 10 years for it
Yeah.
to become mainstream.
We'll just keep having you on like every 6 months until we until we're like the
Exactly.
conversation is widespread.
Well, that's how it's done. That's how it's done.
And
Exactly.
so most women are getting advice to do Kegels, and I guess explain why you think that is, and why or why not that it is good advice.
Kegels, why
Yeah.
Kegels is, well, I don't think Kegels is good advice. So what I teach people, so if people are Googling it, I call it core breath, but it's also called piston breath. And basically what it is, it's like contraction and extension, just like I explained with the biceps. So you're inhaling. So it's not belly breathing because it's like 360 breathing. You want the breath to fill the entire cylinder, right? Message goes to the pelvic floor. And then this is supposed to happen naturally and automatically. But in the learning phase, when you exhale, you blow out, that's when the pelvic floor comes up. So you could squeeze it a little bit, contract it. And then on the inhale, you're relaxing it. And on the exhale, you're squeezing it. And on the inhale, you're relaxing it. So now we have a full range of motion, you could call it, for the pelvic floor. Right now we're making it functional. Now we're making it work. So just squeezing it doesn't make it functional and make it work.
Honestly, it sounds relaxing, especially when you do your hands like that. I'm trying not to actively do it too much while I'm sitting here, but it's hard not to also want to like play along with it and try it for yourself while you're talking.
Well, don't forget, your body is meant to have been doing this innately. Like this is how the body works. It's just like we have these bad postures and these bad habits and these things that are causing it not to be doing that anymore. But on that thing about relaxing, I'm glad that you say that because I'm not a super relaxed person naturally. but sometimes I get clients who are so stressed, right? Like they're under so much stress that actually I have to send them away to do like meditation or that kind of thing first, you know, especially if we're not getting anywhere. It's because they're not doing it, right? That's why they're not getting anywhere. So it needs to be taken down a notch or 10.
Yeah. So there's just levels of it. How long does it generally take for women to start seeing results when they start working with you on this? Is it pretty quick, or does it again depend because of the lifestyle factors?
No, it's pretty quick that they at least start seeing change, right? So let's say they struggle with quite a bit of incontinence. Almost like I would say most people within a week or two are starting to see significant changes. So are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. But because it takes time to work any muscle, like it does for weight loss or like anything you're trying to do with the body, right?
Yeah.
But they see it quickly. The reason, and the younger the person is, the easier too. But this is normal also in fitness because the body is supple and just needs to be kind of reminded and put in place. And as soon as the pelvic floor starts working, like I explained before, they start seeing a difference, right?
That's amazing. I mean, if somebody's struggled with this for years and they could, within some weeks, be jumping on the trampoline and doing the things that they want, and maybe not getting out of the car and peeing their pants, like, great.
Yeah. Now, I tell you, so pelvic floor physio is very important, right? And everybody should be informed about this. And there's countries in the world where, by the way, postnatal care, like it's included in their healthcare. Not for us, not in Canada, and I know not in the United States either. We're kind of left to our own devices. But it's worth it to, even though you have to pay out of pocket, it's worth it to pay for it because it's your body and you're living with it forever, right? Pelvic floor physio is very important for women and we should all be informed about it. But that is only the first step. And yes, we get some of these initial results with that like rehab, breathing, alignment, engagement, blah, blah, blah. But really the true healing comes from strength training your body. So you are doing this automatically, meaning the alignment that we teach, you are strong enough. You don't even have to think about it because no one can remind themselves all day long to stand in alignment, right? And even, I'm not talking rigid. I'm just talking you're naturally holding yourself up. Your back is carrying the things that you're carrying as opposed to some other part of your body because you're compensating. So that's where the strength training comes in. And that's where over time the person becomes imperfect. You know, like the body just functions and the pelvic floor is working 24/7. And by working, I mean just naturally, right? Like not a hard thing. So that's why strength training is the ticket out. And that's why I've started saying, like, even though pelvic floor physio is where it all started, we definitely need their help. Pelvic floor is a fitness issue. So this kind of goes the same with every health professional. So there's also chiropractors and osteos, and I'm a giant fan, right? Like if you're in pain, go get help. But once you've gotten that help, once you're fixed, if you will, or aligned, might be a nicer way to say it, now go strength train yourself to stay like that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I
Right?
could not agree. I agree 100,000,000% because, well, number one, the thing that I was thinking was like, there's just now one more amazing reason to strength train. And I love strength training, but it just has so many fucking benefits. And this is another one. And then also, yes, because I have been in the lash industry a long time and we do sit like that. And one of the reasons that when I became a personal trainer, the people that I wanted to help were people like me in the beauty industry as well, because they run to massage therapists and chiropractors and this and that. And I was in physical therapy for months because of hip and numbness in my fingers, like just going because of my weird postures that I was in and day out, because I wasn't out of them enough for my body to know anything different. And it's not fun. It's expensive. And it causes all kinds of other issues. And you're just, I mean, all these other therapies are great. It's just, it's so temporary if you are not doing your homework. It's like me saying to my client, like, here's how I want you to take care of your eyelashes. Here's how I want you to take care of your skin. Here are the products. This is what you should do. And if you want the results, then you have to do that at home without me. I can't do it for you. And it's the same thing. We have to take that information we're giving and actually apply it. Imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, but
exactly.
we want sometimes for that just to be the end, and it's not, you know, it just doesn't work like that. But it is, so I get really passionate about that because I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't just depend on waist trainers. Oh my Lord.
Right.
And like, stop it with those. And you can't just depend on, like, massage therapy is great. Chiropractors are great. Like, physical therapy is awesome. But if I don't know, and a lot of it is education too. Like, sometimes we just don't know what to do. But that's where people like you and I are here. We're here to help you figure that out. And you don't have to just live with leaking and like constantly worrying about that and like rolling your underwear up in a ball and paper towels and taking it with you. Like, come on.
Like, seriously. I mean, I have a similar story to you too. Like, I know a lot of women do, but for me, it was worse. Like, I still feel like, oh my God, I think I spent that whole day literally smelling, like stinking. And that is really not a nice feeling.
Like, if you don't have a change of pants, like, it's like, do I need to have a change of pants and underwear and like all this? Like, what do I need to have with me? And then I think what also happens, I bet you see this a lot too. And just let me know if I'm totally off base, but I could imagine that when women are experiencing incontinence, that might prevent them from participating in the activities that they love and or working out, because it is embarrassing and it is a hassle. And if they feel like they can't control it, it's like, well, what would happen if I did that in public and people saw? You know, when it really can be quite common, and probably you're not the only person in the gym who's experiencing it right that moment. But I bet it keeps people from engaging in a lot of life activity. And that sucks. I mean, even if it's just playing with your kids or, you know, trying to get up off the floor and you're like, go, oh, wait, oh.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
let me take my time.
Yeah. So. Well, this is what my colleagues and I all the time we say. Like, I didn't come up with this, but it's quite brilliant. Like, it's not life threatening, but it is life altering.
Yeah.
You know, like, it alters your life. And honestly, I don't have the statistic to tell you, but I'll just tell you the specific statistic. But apparently it's like second or something like that for mental health reasons when you have incontinence. But you could see, right? Like, if you can't leave your house, and like, it is an issue to smell like pee. Like, I certainly am not into, as a grown woman.
Yeah, I'm not into it either. You know, it's not.
No.
I mean, going back to that story that I told you earlier that I'm gonna share later, it's like, thank goodness it was water pee, because like, it wasn't my pheromones that you were attracted to. Shut up. Like, I did not smell like pee.
Yeah. No, that story was hilarious.
That's not,
for sure.
It's not the scent that we're trying to carry around with us. And just like, uncomfortable feeling that, you know, in your clothes and moving around with it. And not to mention the fact that, like, if you can't take care of it quickly, like, we don't need dampness, like it's just
Yeah.
breeding ground. So,
Yeah, totally. I wanted to go back to what you said about turning 30 and making that realization. Like, I got goosebumps when you said that, because I'm like, that is super cool. Because we had this conversation, you made a realization about what was happening, and
yeah.
it was alignment related. It
And
had nothing to do with you having babies or whatever. Like, it's your pelvic floor is not functioning the way it should,
yeah.
even at your age.
And 8 years later, someone is finally helping me make that connection. I would have never, I just always thought like, when I turned 30, I don't even have kids, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, for that next few years, 40 plus hours sitting over clients. And I did start working out, but I mean, I had young trainers, male trainers. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't have babies,
No.
so I wasn't experiencing like necessarily all of that during lifting, just honestly the most random times. And of course, in like a kind of commercial gym type of setting, that people fresh out of school or whatever aren't necessarily don't know a lot either. Not that they're at fault for that, but I mean, our own doctors aren't really giving us the after care directions.
Yeah.
And that's where obviously specialists come in, but we need that more direct connection to that. And I'm sure that there's things that if a woman is struggling with this or thinking about having kids and is hearing this and going like, oh my gosh, is that going to be my life? Like, obviously there's something you can do now to help prepare you.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah, no, totally. I have, like, obviously, like you, I'm a full-time personal trainer, right? So I can like, that's what I am. It's a strength training coach, but I can also only do so much. And people are very in love with their own personal trainers, which I think is amazing. So I do have this DIY program that I put together that is not personal training, but it's just explaining this piece. So as a woman, you can get this information. So the breathing, the alignment, the engagement, and then how it works with all the main exercises that we do, right? And then as a woman, you can go to the gym or your class or yoga or your favorite personal trainer and just apply it yourself.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yes.
So yeah.
And I should have that.
Because,
I should be getting that.
So
program.
that's yeah. So that's my mission. My mission
Love
is
it.
just have the woman know it themselves. And then it doesn't matter if your trainer or person has this information or not.
Yeah. And just think I mean, learning how to breathe better. And I've done a lot of like functional range conditioning, like mobility, learning how to connect with your body and really create tension in the body. And that's really helpful in lifting because it helps me it makes me feel like I'm more connected and I get better workouts because I know how to brace my core better than I used to. It's taken me a long time to understand any of that and be taught, and then also want to seek out the information. But I just think of how much less aware you can have, and you can actually focus on what you're doing and how much stronger you are when you learn all of these things because it's so interconnected. So, I mean, I'm sure you could already be a badass in the gym and be lifting and stuff, but it's like, cool, you won't have that thing to worry about, and you'll have more alignment and more things, like you say, functioning well in your body. Like, really, it just can't, there's no cons to that. There's no negatives to that.
No, honestly, there isn't. We have a common friend, Jordan Davies. So she's a younger than you and definitely than me, power lifter. And when I talked to her and her friend, they have this issue too. And I knew this was happening already in CrossFit, but in powerlifting, it happens as well, where the women actually take a little towel with them to their platform, right? Lift, clean it up, and then leave. And this is a normal, thing.
Yes.
And this is a problem. Like, if your body is doing that, that isn't going to all of a sudden magically repair itself.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do these little simple things, the breathing, the alignment, blah, blah, blah. Like, put that in when you're lifting and then be okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's not like a rite of passage that we have to go through. As a woman is like, oh, well, when am I going to start peeing my pants? That will mean that I'm a real woman. It's like, period, pee your pants, and then pause. Like, I'm just kidding.
And unfortunately, and this is going to sound kind of negative, and I don't mean it like that, but there's really no other way to say it. So first of all, it doesn't correct itself just magically. But unfortunately, without putting this in, it does get worse over time as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it does. Like there's just no other way to say it.
Yeah.
So that's why
Abby needs to nip this in the bud right now.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, exactly. And
Who wants to
everybody
join
does.
me? Who's joining
Everybody
me
does.
on this journey? I know that there's some of you out there.
And you know what? It's going to be awesome because I started and I called myself a pelvic floor specialist, and I still do. But honestly, like I'm a pain specialist now, because when you put when your core pelvic floor, which is the fundamental part of your core, functions, pain goes away everywhere in the body. Like I'm 50, I told you, not 50, I'm 49, almost 50. Like I have no pain anywhere, ever, hardly ever, right? So I think that's a pretty cool way to live.
I think it's super cool. I think that people we get so used to feeling bad, like as a normal, that we don't even realize like how good we can feel.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Or how,
it's true.
That not peeing your pants can exist.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I love your mission. That's why I reached out to you immediately, because I've had this conversation many times over the years. I've obviously experienced it myself, and the stress of almost and also peeing your pants, and like, well, okay, I guess that's that for today. And I love that. I love your personality. You're so fun. You're sassy, and you're Canadian sassy is what I say.
You're so sweet.
And Nicole and I know each other through a mentorship, and that like the first time we had our first call, and I was like, oh my God, I love this woman. And then when they split the calls up, I was like, well, of course you can't have all the entertainment, you and me, in one.
No, we have to be split
and Jim,
up.
it's like you can't have Nicole and Abby and Jim on one call. Like,
no, we have to make it fair.
Yeah, I got it.
Fair.
Like they just need their entertainment all throughout the day, not in one 2-hour call. But that's why it's so fun to be able to chat with you like this, just as something kind of fun. What is like one of your favorite books or podcasts that you're listening to now that's kind of either been really fun for you or changed your life in some way?
Oh, that's a great question. I just finished listening to an Audible book, and I can't remember the name. I think it was like We Should All Be Millionaires. I really like that. But I do like to listen. Like I like to listen to Mind Pump. I like to listen to Mike Milner. He's my favorite.
Yeah,
my other
so
mentor, Coach JVB, she's called, and it's the Strong Podcast, which I also absolutely love that.
Cool.
And now yours. Yours is going to be on my favorites list.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is it's so funny because it is kind of a variety of things to talk about here on this podcast, but this is literally what I do with people and have done with people all day long while doing their lashes, is talk about everything. And obviously I'm in the health and fitness space. And so, but we literally will talk about kids, we'll talk about husbands, we'll talk about Netflix, and we'll talk about, oh, well, I peed my pants today. Or we'll talk about, like health or whatever. We talk about everything. And so that's why it's so fun to do this, and also to have you on.
Yeah, I love it. I'm sure it's a lot of work, but I'm planning to tune in. It's going to be awesome. I'm sure of it.
Thank you. Well, Nicole, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you on social media?
Sure. So on Instagram, I am called Pelvic Floor Secrets. My Facebook group is actually called Pelvic Floor Secrets as well. And there I do a live every Tuesday. We teach all kinds of things. Prolapse, incontinence, the access recti, which is separation of the abdominals.
Yes.
And all kinds of awesome
Oh my gosh,
stuff.
that's a whole nother conversation. Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to come back for that.
Yeah.
That's a whole other half hour for sure. And yeah, I have a website too, and it's my name, Nicole Thorne Fitness.
Perfect. Well, I'll include all of that in the show notes, and I'll also include your favorites that we just discussed, podcasts and whatnot.
Sure.
Nicole, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I've learned some important things, and that also need to be in your program. And so thank you so much for coming on and just spreading your beautiful personality and your knowledge with all of us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That was a super fun episode. Listen, ladies, if you're ready to make a positive change in your health and confidence, I would love to chat with you about your goals and how I can help you reach them with my coaching program. You can contact me at hello@crushingpodcast.com or visit my website at foxyfitonline.com. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Abio podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra lap once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abio.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.